Don't mind my chubby arms. Arms, chubby arms. Sorry, this is a demon leaving my body. Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You're with Jane and Molly. Molly, you want to say hi? Okay, but you're over here at Blue Box 29 with us, and today is April 9th. Don't mind my chubby arms. Arms, chubby arms. Sorry, this is a demon leaving my body. So it is April 9th. I changed the book finally, so I forgot to put up the images for today, but it's April 9th. Today is all about the creatures on the other side. So we're in the other realm for week 2 of April. Since it is April 9th, it's week 2. We have 4 weeks every month, and any extra days after, because week 4, it isn't always a 28-month week, right? So all the extra days are always falling into week 4. We're not extending any of the other weeks, okay? But since it's week 2 in the other realm, I put up this one double picture that we have in our book. So our back-to-back pictures, and you'll see a number of creatures on there. Some of them may be familiar Egyptian creatures to you. Some are just the embodiment of demonic creatures, as you see with Anubis. So you get to see a number of different things. Go ahead and name the rest if you can name them. Specifically, if you can name who these two are meant to be. In Egyptian folklore, they appear within our duat. They appear to Snow White in different ways, but today is all about the creatures. So our theme are beings of the unseen. So with our creatures, we're looking at beings that are in the unseen or come from the unseen. We're going to look at that through 4 stories. Today, they're going to come from European, specifically French, Chinese, Plains tribes, and Hindu folklore. So enjoy these 4 stories on the creatures. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1, The Unicorn, the creature that cannot be taken. Within the medieval traditions of Europe, particularly in France, the unicorn emerges not as a creature of fantasy alone, but as a being deeply embedded within symbolic and natural philosophy, representing purity, elusiveness, and the presence of life that cannot be possessed or controlled. And unlike creatures that are hunted and captured through strength or strategy, the unicorn is consistently described as a being that resists all attempts at force, appearing only under specific conditions that align with its nature, and most commonly associated with forests, springs, and untouched landscapes. It is depicted as a solitary creature, aware of its surroundings and capable of evading all who seek it through ordinary means. One of the most well-known elements of unicorn lore involves the belief that the creature can only be approached or even seen by a maiden, often described as pure or uncorrupted, and in many accounts, hunters who wish to capture the unicorn do not pursue it directly, but instead place a maiden within the forest, knowing that the unicorn may approach her willingly, resting beside her without fear, and it is only in this moment of trust that it becomes vulnerable, allowing others to capture or kill it. a detail that reflects not only the creature's selective presence, but the tension between purity and exploitation within the narrative. The unicorn is also frequently associated with healing, particularly through its horn, which was believed to have the power to purify water and neutralize poison, reinforcing its connection to life-giving and restorative forces within nature. And this association further elevates the unicorn beyond a simple animal, positioning it as a being that exists within a different order of reality, where its presence carries both symbolic and practical significance. However, the central aspect of the unicorn within these traditions is not its physical form or abilities, but its refusal to be accessed through force, appearing only when conditions align and withdrawing when they do not, demonstrating that it cannot be pursued in the same way as other creatures, and that attempts to dominate or possess it result in its disappearance. This reflects a broader understanding within medieval European thought that certain aspects of the natural world are not meant to be controlled, but encountered through alignment, patience, and recognition of their inherent autonomy, and that the presence of such beings serves as a reminder that not all life exists for human use or understanding. The unicorn therefore represents a form of unseen presence within nature, one that exists independently of human intention and reveals itself only when approached without force or expectation, illustrating that connection with certain aspects of the world cannot be achieved through effort alone, but requires a state of being that allows for encounter rather than capture. This narrative reinforces the idea that the natural world is not empty or passive, but inhabited by forms of life that operate according to their own conditions. Now, recognizing this requires a shift from attempting to define or control what is encountered to allowing it to exist as it is, demonstrating that some connections can only occur when the desire to possess is set aside, and that what is most significant may also be what is least accessible, not because it is hidden, but because it cannot be approached in the same way as everything else. Story 2, the Qilin, the creature that appears only in harmony. Within the mythological and philosophical traditions of China, the Qilin, sometimes rendered as Qilin or Kirin, is understood not as a creature of dominance or force, but as a rare and auspicious being whose presence is tied directly to moments of harmony, balance, and moral alignment within the world. And unlike creatures that inhabit specific territories or appear through predictable patterns, the Qilin is defined by its conditional existence, appearing only when the state of the world reflects a particular order, and withdrawing when that order is disrupted, making it less a permanent inhabitant of a location and more a manifestation of balance itself. Described as a composite creature with features resembling a deer, an ox, and a dragon, often covered in scales and surrounded by an aura of light or flame, the Qilin embodies a synthesis of natural elements, reinforcing its connection to the broader structure of the world rather than to any single domain. And despite its powerful appearance, it is consistently portrayed as gentle and non-destructive, said to walk without bending grass or harming even the smallest living being, illustrating that its strength is expressed through restraint and alignment rather than force. Within traditional accounts, the appearance of the Qilin is considered a significant event, often associated with the birth or presence of a sage or ruler of great virtue, such as the legendary association with Confucius, where its arrival signals not only an individual's importance, but a moment in which the world itself is in a state that allows such a presence to be revealed. This connection emphasizes that the Qilin does not act independently of the world's condition, but is instead responsive to it, appearing as a reflection of harmony rather than as an agent imposing it. And this distinction reinforces the idea that certain beings exist in direct relationship with the balance of the environment, revealing themselves only when that balance is present. The Qilin is therefore not encountered through pursuit, ritual demand, or force, but through alignment, and its absence is not due to concealment alone, but to the conditions of the world not supporting its presence, suggesting that it is always potentially there, yet not always visible. This reflects a broader principle within Chinese thought, particularly influenced by Confucian and Taoist philosophy, that harmony within the world is not merely an abstract idea, but a tangible state that influences what can and cannot manifest, and that beings such as the Qilin exist within this system as indicators of that state. The rarity of its experience reinforces its role as a marker rather than a participant, demonstrating that some forms of life do not exist continuously within human perception, but emerge only when specific conditions are met, and that their presence serves as evidence of alignment rather than as something to be captured or controlled. The Qilin therefore represent a form of unseen life that is conditional, responsive, and reflective of the world's state, illustrating that not all beings are permanently accessible or observable, and that their appearance depends on factors that extend beyond individual intention, reinforcing the lesson that nature is not empty, but inhabited by presences that exist in relationship with balance, and that encountering such beings requires not pursuit, but the cultivation of the conditions under which they can appear. Story 3, Thunderbird, the power that moves the sky. Within the traditions of many Plains Indigenous peoples of North America, including nations such as the Lakota and Ojibwe, the Thunderbird is understood not as a creature in the conventional sense, but as a powerful and living presence within the sky itself, a being whose movements are expressed through thunder, lightning, and storms, and whose existence reflects the understanding that the natural world is not passive, but inhabited by forces that act with intention and authority. And the Thunderbird is often described as a vast bird whose wings generate thunder as they beat, while lightning flashes from its eyes or beak, illustrating that what is perceived as weather is also understood as the activity of a conscious force. This being is not constantly visible, nor does it exist in a way that allows for direct or frequent encounter, instead revealing itself through its effects. Its presence, known through the sound of thunder, the striking of lightning, and the sudden shift in the sky, reinforcing the idea that not all beings are meant to be seen directly, and that recognition of their existence comes through awareness of the world's movements rather than through visual confirmation. The Thunderbird is often associated with protection and balance, particularly in its role as an opponent to underwater spirits, sometimes described as horned serpents or water beings, with whom it maintains a necessary tension that preserves equilibrium between sky and water, illustrating that its power is not arbitrary, but part of a system that sustains order within the world. In some accounts, the Thunderbird resides in high, remote places such as mountains or cloud realms, locations that are not easily accessible, and that reinforce its connection to the upper world. And encounters with it, whether direct or indirect, are often framed as significant events that carry meaning or consequence, requiring respect and acknowledgement rather than control or interpretation. The Thunderbird is not a being that can be summoned or approached through ordinary means, and attempts to engage with it without proper understanding or respect are often portrayed as dangerous, emphasizing that interaction with such forces requires awareness of their nature and boundaries. This reflects a broader understanding within these traditions that the world is inhabited by powers that are not subordinate to human intention, and that living within this world involves recognizing and respecting those presences rather than attempting to dominate them. The Thunderbird therefore represents a form of unseen life that is vast, powerful, and expressed through natural phenomena, demonstrating that what appears as impersonal forces may in fact be understood as living presences within a structured system of balance, and that these presences operate according to their own roles and relationships within the world. This understanding shifts the perception of nature from a collection of processes to a network of interactions between visible and invisible beings, where storms are not random, but meaningful expressions of movement within that system, and where recognition of these forces allow for a deeper alignment with the world. The Thunderbird's presence reinforces the lesson that nature is not empty, but inhabited by powerful beings whose existence may not always be directly observed, yet is consistently experienced, and that awareness of these presences require attention to the patterns and expressions of the world itself, illustrating that the unseen is not separate from the seen, but revealed through it. Story 4, the Nāga, guardians beneath the surface. Within the religious and mythological traditions of India, particularly within Hindu cosmology, the Nāga are understood as serpent beings who inhabit a realm that exists beneath and alongside the visible world, often associated with bodies of water such as rivers, lakes, and subterranean domains. And unlike creatures that are entirely separate from human experience, the Nāga are described as occupying a parallel existence that intersects with the human world at specific locations, particularly where water and earth meet, marking these spaces as thresholds between realms. Nāga are frequently depicted as beings that can take both serpent and human forms, reflecting their dual nature as creatures of the natural world and as intelligent, conscious entities capable of interaction, communication, and influence. And their presence is not random, but tied to specific places and responsibilities, often acting as guardians of water sources, treasures, and sacred knowledge, reinforcing the idea that certain locations are not uninhabited, but protected and maintained by unseen forces. Within many traditional accounts, Nāga dwell in Nāgaloka, a realm described as existing beneath the earth or within hidden dimensions connected to water, structured and organized with its own inhabitants, hierarchy, and environment, demonstrating that the unseen world is not without form, but possesses its own geography and order. Interactions between humans and Nāga are often framed as conditional, requiring respect, proper conduct, and awareness of the boundaries that separate realms. The stories frequently emphasize that those who disturb Nāga domains without understanding may face consequences, while those who approach with reverence may receive protection or knowledge, illustrating that engagement with these beings depends on alignment rather than force. The Nāga are also associated with cycles of renewal, fertility, and the sustaining qualities of water, linking them to life-giving processes within the natural world and reinforcing their role as maintainers of balance rather than disruptors. And this connection positions them as integral to the functioning of both visible and invisible systems. Their presence beneath the surface reflects a broader principle within Hindu cosmology, that reality is layered, with multiple realms coexisting and interacting, and that what is unseen is not absent, but simply located beyond immediate perception, accessible only under certain conditions. The Nāga therefore represent a form of hidden life that is constant, yet not always visible, inhabiting specific domains that require recognition and respect. Their existence illustrates that the world contains structure, inhabited spaces that are not immediately apparent, but that influence and sustain the visible environment. This understanding emphasizes that nature is not empty, but inhabited by beings whose presence is tied to place and function, and that awareness of these presences requires attention to the boundaries and relationships that define them, demonstrating that connection with the unseen involves recognizing where it resides and how it operates, rather than attempting to bring it into full visibility. The Nāga reinforce the lesson that beneath what is seen lies a structured and inhabited world, and that engaging with it requires respect for its existence, its boundaries, and the roles of beings that dwell within it. Hey everybody, welcome back in. Hope you enjoyed those 4 stories. There are so many creatures that are good creatures that could have been in the other realm, but I really thought that these 4 embody great aspects, big aspects of folklore mythology. And I just was excited to introduce them today. So yes, any of you that are Scottish, I'm Scottish, I get it. Why did I do a unicorn story in France when it's Scotland's national animal? It's just where it came from today. Don't worry, Scotland, we'll get to you. Anyways, popping right into it, right? Our lesson is that nature is not uninhabited. We seem to think that as humans, and it's crazy because I've been seeing it pop up more and more. Yeah, when I was a kid, I recognized trash out in nature. I live in rural Nevada, so it's pretty isolated in a lot of places, and you see people throw out their trash. And it sucks. I'm not gonna lie, when I was younger, I had done it a few times, right? I've also gone up and cleaned up trash before. Not that that makes up for it, but, you know, we've all done it, whether it's on purpose or on accident too. When you have something in your pocket, your trash, and you go, oh crap, it fell out, right? So we see that sometimes, but then we see the deliberate people. And I brought this up because I've been seeing more and more posts. And I saw one this morning or yesterday where it was like a bunch of shot bottles, like the little cheapy bottles, just tons of them all over the earth, all over the ground. And we're talking like, let's say in this pile, there were probably at least 30 to 40. Like it wasn't just a couple here and there. There's definitely some sort of party, or like someone had gone out there and had one once a day or once a week for the past 40 years, because we're just ignorant. I think just humans are ignorant. We're really the only ones that can't figure out how to not leave an imprint on this earth, truly. But with story 1, let's just jump into the exciting things about the other realms. Story 1, the unicorn. I loved the messages that came with this story today in the French one, right? And that's why I'm saying that we'll see different animals coming from different regions where you may go, hey, that belongs to this region, or hey, that belongs here. There are so many different interpretations and adaptations, and they all hold their own significance. With this French one, I love how they showed the innocence and the purity and the naivety that happens, right? So, and having it stripped away, right? So we get to see that when people are out hunting it and they know they aren't worthy of the unicorn being presented to them, they know that it won't come to them for whatever reason that they may have for that moment in time. It's not coming to them. It's literally right here. All right. But they have to use a maiden. They have to use something pure that the unicorn would present itself to go out there as bait. It just, how many times has an innocent been used as bait for predators? In all actuality, hunters, predators, and no, I'm not saying that hunters are predators in that sense, but I'm saying in the sense of wanting to possess, conquer, take, kill, anything like that. Yeah, we're seeing it, and it's just sad because we're so destructive, right? And if we can't have it, it must mean it's valuable, right? If, it only presents itself to these maidens, oh, but the maidens can't take care of it. They don't know what they're doing, so we just better do it. Or they don't realize how important the horn is, or this and that. And yeah, we see a lot of stories where the horn held magical properties. On the happier side of things, it would have been so cool to be, a maiden, to be living in that innocence and that purity, and to be approached by a unicorn. I can only imagine that that would have been such a happy, delightful experience. I don't think that you could even be sad around a unicorn. So the cultural significance for this one is that the unicorn symbolizes purity, autonomy, and the idea that certain aspects of nature cannot be controlled, only encountered. And the important note for it is that some beings cannot be found by seeking them. They appear only when you are no longer trying to possess them. It's kind of like, even when there are people we want in our lives, even when there are people we like, they aren't ours to possess. We can't force them to be a part of our lives. Even if we do everything right, that thing, that person may not want to be a part of our lives, and it's not our choice, ultimately. But story 2, the Qilin and the creature that appears only in harmony. I loved this one. I loved that it appeared, and it has the ties to Confucius. I love that it appears when harmony and balance are being respected and practiced. So it's not something that, during a tyranny, during a dictatorship of any kind, it's not going to appear, right? And the people wouldn't know that. So if there was some miraculous sighting of it, you can't fool the people, right? You can't fool the culture into believing that something like that would come up when they're not feeling the balance, right? They're not seeing that balance. I don't know as much about the Confucius interaction with this one, but it definitely made me want to go down the rabbit hole. Confucianism is one that I have been actually recommended to look into quite a number of times from a big variety of people when they found out that I actually did some studying in Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism, but I just didn't do Confucianism. And yes, I know that there's a lot of overlapping ideas and thoughts and stuff, but they are all their own section for a reason. I'm not going to be ignorant in the sense that, oh, I looked into Buddhism, so all of Eastern religions I know. No, they're not the same. There may be similar aspects, but anyways, I do think that this story kind of reminded me that Confucianism is something I really need to look at next, especially since it's something that hits my interest anyways. I've just been really diving into more of the pagan, different regional paganism around, as one of my friends in town is a practicing pagan, And I just think it's so interesting in the way that they talked about it. It's a unique branch, and it actually made me go, wait, I need to look at really what I am. So if I didn't have labels, what would I be? And it's just cool. Like I had that chat with my AI about, hey, everything you know about me, break me down into a religion. It's just cool. It's cool to see what it says. It's cool to see, hey, you would fit into this, but you wouldn't because of this. And hey, you have so many different aspects you believe in that there is actually something for you. There are people out there that feel these things. And wow, that's the best part about today's day and age, is how easy it is to connect and to find our people if we truly are looking and wanting them. But this one reminded me of that. When we are in balance, there will be signs. There will be things there helping us along the way. And the important note for this one, or let's start with the cultural significance again. So the cultural significance for this one is the Qilin symbolizes harmony, virtue, and the presence of auspicious conditions, reflecting the interconnectedness between moral order and the natural world. The important note is that some beings do not appear because they are hidden. They appear only when the world is in balance enough to reveal them. Maybe it's not even by their choice, right? Kind of like you look at the other aspect of it, of the fear of when it's completely out of balance, the creatures that are meant to come, right? And I think the big one is the Leviathan, and the creature that they're seeing, or the creature that they think they might see a bunch of people. And I've definitely jumped on that bandwagon a couple times looking into it, into that rabbit hole. But that giant serpent head that's down, I circled it on my map out in the living room. I have this big world map out there. But look up the Leviathan head, okay? The melting Leviathan. There's so many different things you can see. But it's cool and terrifying to think of what if there are creatures that would show when there is balance. What about the very opposite? When we're ruled by some of the terrible things we're being ruled by now. Honestly, I don't want to get into it, because you can go politically, you can go just character-wise. It's a lot of sin going around. A lot more worried about other people than worried about our own actions, for sure. I've definitely done that a time or two. So moving forward, though, with our Thunderbird, I love the story of the Thunderbird because it's an animal that is just so magnificent within its power that the elements even dance with it, right? So we have the Thunderbird, right? Thunder and lightning come with it. But it's just like, it reminds me of immediate consequence, right? An immediate acknowledgement of where you are at, to be presented or to be in the presence of this kind of creature. I would imagine that the amount of respect you'd have to would have to be very clear right away. But it also made me think of how we associate animals, right? Birds in particular, they can fly. We associate them with air, obviously. But it's interesting how much we associate them with electricity as well. And I'm saying that because Zeus, in a lot of different depictions, he's like an eagle, a hawk, he's a bird. But there's lightning, with him as well. And I'm just reflecting on the movies where he turns into a bird and there are lightning strikes and all of this. Yet it's a regular sized bird. The Thunderbird is enormous. Okay. And I loved this line. Sorry, I was looking for the line. I loved this line because it's talking about the respect, and you don't approach this without understanding or acknowledgement of what's going on. It's almost like why can't I think of its name? The hippogriff in Harry Potter, right? Malfoy? Sorry if it's still a touchy subject. But anyways, this line that says, this reflects all that what we just said. This reflects a broader understanding within these traditions that the world is inhabited by powers that are not subordinate to human intention. I love that. I love the stories of us as humans being humbled and it being by things we can't explain or control, or there's nothing we can do about it. it makes me excited because of all the evil and corruption that's in the world. There are powers bigger and stronger that will have to be faced, right? And maybe they'll make it through. Like we talked about yesterday with the doo-wop, maybe they'll be tested and make it through and have the chance. And that's the hope, right? Is that everyone at the end of the day makes it to paradise in heaven as clean souls, as peaceful, forgiving souls, loving souls. But just the humbling that comes from some of these beings, it's terrifying. It's terrifying and exciting. And it gives a little bit of hope knowing that while we may feel weak or unprotected or without power here, there are things out there that look out for the smaller person or the person that just lives in balance and harmony and out of respect that doesn't care about power. There are things out there for that as well. But for the Thunderbird, it represents power, protection, and the balance between natural forces, emphasizing the presence of living beings within the environment. And the important note is that not all beings are meant to be seen, just like we've already seen a number of creatures, is that not all things are meant to be seen, but some are known through the way the world moves around you. I think that there are a lot of things, a lot of creatures that probably dance around us in the other realm. And it's like where you feel almost that serpent crawling up you or dancing with you. I sometimes think it's like a Eastern dragon that's just, touching us, saying, hey, like you're not alone in this vast universe. You're not alone. And you don't have to travel far, right? We're right here. You just can't see us. But they sometimes allow us to feel them, which is an honor. But there are also times where we're knocked down and we don't know why. And I think that that's also something going, hey, check yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Huh, Molly? I love you, sweetheart. Then story for the Nāga, so guardians beneath the surface. So this one was a little bit interesting because, well, they're always interesting. But with how many people are today thinking, and it's been a thought process for a while, but the hollow earth, or that there are things truly within the center of the earth or other realms, whatever it may be, the Nāga are below the surface. So they are one of the beings in the lower realms. And to go in there willy-nilly or searching, but not fully understanding the culture, the respect, the context, the beings down there, it's dangerous. So the curiosity killed the cat kind of mentality. But the Nāga are down in this realm. They're in this place that's designed for them, right? It's their realm. And I don't know, as someone who, I don't know, I've seen some things that are pretty crazy. I have my own suspicions about the way that the earth is structured. And no, I don't think it's as simple as a round or flat earth kind of concept. But I think that there are definitely reasons why we kind of drill to the center or drill how deep the crust is, or even get to the bottom of the ocean floor, and explore every single space of it. I think that there's a lot that we don't know that are existing potentially. And is it a Nāga? Who knows? Probably, right? Whatever we want to call it. It may not be Nāga in our native tongue. Maybe it's something else, but that could be very well what it is. It doesn't always mean that we need to always know the name of these beings. We need to always understand everything about them. Because even if we studied them, we wouldn't know everything about them. That's the point. We're humans. If we were meant to understand and interact and to manipulate or influence, they'd be in our realm. They'd be here with us rather than in places that they're protected. Because I don't think it's necessarily, oh, humans need to be protected from them. I 100% believe that a lot of these beings had to be protected and taken from us because, we saw it in story 1. What happened when the unicorns were here? Some of these creatures, you look at the Bible. Who is in charge of taking care of God's creatures? Humans. Who are the ones that are constantly mistreating God's creatures? Other humans, animals, all of this. Humans, right? And we can go ahead and look at the ocean psychopaths, the orcas, and go, yeah, well, they're like throwing seals in the air and playing ping pong with them. That's cruel. Yeah, okay, I get it. I do. But humans, come on, human. I I do love though, because I ran into quite a number of people yesterday when I did the putting up pinwheels in our old courthouse lawn for Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month here. I met some people that are, I mean, they fight that fight. They fight that good fight and do so much positive. So no, I don't believe that everybody is destructive. And no, I don't believe you. If you're watching this, I don't think you're destructive. I just have to say a lot of these things to just myself too. All of these things that we're meant to protect and take care of. And what are the things actually in my control? How can I make the pets that I have, the plants that I have, how can I make their lives better now? And the people within my life, how can I make their lives better now? Because I can't control some of the other aspects, right? Other people you can't control, right? And we shouldn't. I don't think anyone should be controlled. It's not the point. But anyways, with those 4 stories, so that last one, the Nāga, they represent guardianship, fertility, and the hidden structures of the natural world, emphasizing the layered nature of reality. And the important note for that one is that what lies beneath is not empty. It is inhabited, structured, and aware. I don't think it's any coincidence that all these mythologies, all these different cultures, they had these worlds underneath the crust or within. There's something in there, I think. I don't know. I do think that folklore and mythology is something I'd rather lean on than simple science alone. I like having the mashup of both, but when it comes to my spirituality, I truly don't think that everything needs to be proven. And no, I'm not saying total crazy stuff, but this is totally crazy to people, and it's not to me a lot of the time. Something like the Naga and being these beings underneath the surface level is something I 100% could, you know, believe, follow. I think that people go missing going into caves. And I mean, if I was in a cave and I found this world and I was welcomed, I was respected and honored for coming, not at the same level. Would not expect that at all, but I was welcomed. I find it hard to come back. I would love, I would love, people to come with me, Mark and my family and everything. But I feel like if I was there and I was accepted, that could be something you might be able to ask too, which I would. But so with all of those, the daily thread is that the unicorn appears only when nothing seeks to have it. The Qilin arrives when the world itself is in balance. The Thunderbird moves through storm, felt more than seen. The Nāga dwell beneath, guarding what sustains life. Each being exists without needing to be witnessed. Each presence follows conditions beyond human control. Nature is not silent, but quietly inhabited. And what you sense may already be watching you. There are so many things that can survive without human touch, influence, or care. To think that there's anything out there that wouldn't survive without us is just ignorant. Because if it was here before us, it would certainly be fine without us. And when we put on that codependency on beings, I think that's intentional control, and it's sick. And yes, I have pets. So it's like, well, what are you talking about? No, I just do my best to love them and give them the life that I think makes them happy. I have some very active animals and some that literally move twice throughout the day and it's to go to the bathroom and get food. We just got to do our best and love them and hope that they love us too, because they're probably trying to do their best for us as well. I think all creatures, it's communication, it's a relationship, it's something's happening, in exchange. But with all that in mind, what creature feels like kin to my soul? So comment. This is one of my favorite questions. It was one of my favorite activities with students, that spirit animal. And know we had a whole lesson about it, symbolism and all this stuff. But please leave your comment. Please leave your answer of what creature feels like kin to your soul. What is it to you? I mean, I did this, I think 3 days ago. I was telling Mark, look at I'm making the structure of the animals I want in our house and our sacred geometry house and how it would work. And just finding animals for my soul is not at all what I thought it might be when I was little. But it feels so much more right now. Finding things that truly fit my soul, not just what I think is cute, but what's right for me. What would enjoy my presence and vice versa. But which one feels like it's your kin to your soul. And then today you're going to observe an animal silently without naming or interpreting its behavior. Whether it's a pet, a wild animal, whether you have to go to a store, go to some sort of nature, whatever it may be, go somewhere and observe an animal. Just observe it. Don't explain it. Don't dig into it. Just watch. And then I'm going to leave you with allow connection to arise without attempting to define or possess it. So allow connection to arise without attempting to define or possess it. This is actually cool as I'm about to start trying to befriend. I'm trying to figure out how to get my red-tailed hawk to just come by and say hi. I don't like owning birds in the sense that I don't like caging something that's intentionally, their spirits are free, truly. But there's a red-tailed hawk, there's some ravens and crows. I want to try to at least see if I interact with them, if I leave them some treats, some shiny objects, if they'll just at least acknowledge me, because how cool would that be? But anyways, that's where I'm at. And just remember that not everything is needed. Not everything should be possessed. Just like we aren't meant to be possessed, owned by anyone. And of course, government's found its way around that, but you can't own the spirit. You can't own the soul, because the only thing with the power to do that is untouchable by humans, intentionally untouchable by humans. But with that, that was April 9th. It was all about the creature, and I'm so excited. So, like I said, if you can name these two beings, if you want to answer those questions, leave your thoughts, comments, like, subscribe below, and I will see you guys tomorrow for April 10th.